Okay. For a second, we just stop and say how cool your classmates are. Yeah. Two more presentations. So next, I'd like to invite Stephen up.
If I bomb, we're all friends. I probably should have picked a better title. I promise you this is actually like a really interesting topic. Yeah, go ahead. So, as most of you know, at least I believe most of you know, I worked in Cambodia before I was coming here for the past 2 years. But no one actually knows what I did there, so this presentation is to give you an understanding of that. So my main job was working in rural community health and helping to build up some community health infrastructure. One of my main focuses was on WASH, which stands for Water and Sanitation Hygiene. So for those of you who don't know, and that's a little, I wouldn't call this a fun fact, it's sad, but Cambodia has the highest rate of open defecation in Southeast Asia, which is mostly due to poverty, and it causes a lot of really serious but preventable diseases. This is especially so in a lot of the rural areas where, as you can see in this family here, they don't have access to latrines, they don't have access to improved water sources, and it can make life incredibly hard, especially when access to medical care is a financial burden for a lot of these families. So I just want to start out with a quick story. One day when I was going through one of the villages, I ran into a local farmer there, and I was asking him about the sanitation in his village, and he told me a story about how the other day he was out fishing behind his house in the river to try and catch some fish for dinner. So he threw out the net, and then a few hours later he reeled it in, and after it being out all afternoon he didn't catch any fish. The only thing that was caught in his net was literally human shit, which really perfectly sums up the problems of open defecation, because it gets in your water sources, it pollutes the entire area, and causes a lot of sanitation-related diseases like cholera and giardia and a lot of diarrheal diseases, which are a serious problem. So in this particular village, only about 5% out of the 300 households had access to latrines. So because of this, because of the really large concentration of open defecation, it really just leads to like a cyclical cycle of sanitation diseases, in the sense that people go out and they go shit in the rice fields, then they go work in the rice fields, and then they come home and eat dinner. So it causes a really repetitive pattern of disease called the fecal-oral cycle. Most people understand the dangers of it, but they just see themselves, because of poverty, not having a lot of resources to really be able to do anything about it. So me and my counterparts planned a latrine project. Specifically, we planned a communal latrines because, as you can see in the picture, a lot of the houses were located quite near each other, so doing communal latrines really would allow us to cover a large area for a relatively cheap amount of money, and to be able to cover just a large space in general. So we got to work planning, and we decided to put them in the most concentrated areas of the village to allow the effects of it to sort of propagate outwards, in the sense that every time somebody uses the communal latrine, they protect the entire community by not spreading disease and spreading germs. The inspiration for this project came from a communal latrine that I stumbled upon a few months before in a neighboring village. It was built by an NGO, but unfortunately when they came in and they built this project, they didn't at all consult the community on who it was meant for, who would use it, how it would be shared, what resources would go into maintaining it, or anything like that. So it really left a lot of confusion among the villagers about how, like, what this project was intended for and how it would be maintained over the long run. And because of that, it really wasn't as successful as it could have been. Although it did have really a lot of potential, and we learned a lot of lessons for it in the project that we had planned. So when we wrote our grant, when we started our project, we really heavily involved the families in this latrine project. Their involvement was really key to the success of it, because we wanted to really instill like a sense of ownership for them over these latrines, and not that it was just some NGO giving it to them, but that it was theirs, that it was something that they earned. These are the designs. So you can see the graphic. They're just like designed just like simple flush latrines. They're manual flush. You just pour it in and it carries it back, and it stores them in these cement tanks underground. These are the latrines that we built. We built 12 of them in total. It wasn't enough to cover the entire village, but it covered about 50% of the most concentrated areas, which are really the areas where people are suffering the most consequences from the effects of open defecation. We built 12 in total. They were built sort of in pairs of 2, so there were like 6 separate buildings, each in pairs of 2, with each about 10 families sharing 2 of these little stalls here. So it covered around like 300 people in total. Along with the construction of them, we also incorporated some education sessions. These are some of my students that I worked with from the local high school who came out, and they led sessions on hand washing and the fecal-oral cycle and the spread of disease to really help ensure that that would be sort of cut out in the long run. They also, along with the education sessions, they also helped me paint the latrines, which was really fun. The pictures on the sides, they incorporated ideas of community health and community sanitation in a lot of the images that they drew on the side. And the results of this project were actually pretty remarkable. Within the first 3 to 4 months, we were seeing rates of fecal-borne diseases drop by about 15 to 20%. And outside of that, there were also a lot of financial and social and economic benefits outside of that, in the sense that, if you're not sick all the time, you don't have to spend money on health care. The children can perform better at school. They can focus and pay attention because they're not sick. And even worker rice farmers in the fields can go out and be more productive because they have energy and they're not sick all the time. So really, this is an incredible project. And I'm also proud to say that there's a new person who's taken over my spot and is interested in expanding this project. So hopefully, the benefits of this will be shared to other villages nearby, hopefully. So I didn't realize there was going to be questions. So this slide was just simply to say that this is just one of the many projects that I worked on while I was there. And obviously this is just a snapshot of it. I have much more that I would like to say, but I really encourage all of you to ask me questions. This is really like an amazing, amazing 2 years of my life, and I have much more to say about it. So thank you all for listening.
Involved in the project in the first place?
So it was just me and some community partners that just sort of gained interest in it. I was doing sort of health outreach and health education for the whole district that I worked in, and it was just a need that me and a bunch of community members saw that was really going unmet, especially with such high rates of open defecation that rural parts of Cambodia has. Yeah, it just seemed like a really relevant problem that could make a lot of difference. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
What's another project that you worked on that you really enjoyed working on as well? That you would give another Pingu to talk about if you wanted.
Yeah, sure. So another big project that I did was, another big problem in Cambodia is food insecurity, also due to poverty. So another big project that I did was an agriculture project where we did a bunch of vegetable gardens around some of the schools in the community, and also with some of the families, teaching them, not really giving them a garden, but teaching them how to make organic composts and fertilizers and pesticides to increase their crop yields, essentially geared towards children. So there's a lot of stunting and wasting and malnourishment and stuff, so it's mostly to combat those effects. Yeah.
Does the impact of projects like that remain after the organizations leave the village?
My project in particular?
No, I mean other case studies. Does it improve these communities in the long term? Will those latrines be maintained?
So for mine, yes. I don't know how much detail I went into this, but with the project that I did in particular, all of the families that participated in the project, they created their own cleaning and maintenance plans to ensure like the long-term success of the project. So they made their own plans for like, you know, what do you do when the tanks get full, or like who's going to clean it and how will it be maintained, and they sort of made their own plans to handle any problems that would come up over the lifetime of the project. I mean, it's different with other NGOs, like the picture that I showed you before of those other communal latrines. Like, they didn't do shit. They just like, they built it and they were like, okay, bye. That definitely didn't go as well. I don't know. Yeah.
Wasn't it a very stigmatized topic? Like when you talk about community engagement, is it difficult to talk with people about like gentrification in general?
No, it wasn't difficult to talk about. I think it was because so widespread. Well, I mean, at least in these areas, like I said, only 5% of the people in this village had access to latrines. So, I mean, it wasn't very stigmatized just because it was something that everyone did.
Yeah.
And they were very open to it. I mean, they wanted latrines. It was just, they were limited in the resources that they had to be able to do anything about it. Yeah.
Along the same lines, and it might seem ridiculous, but was there any opposition?
For the most part, no. I mean, there were a few of the elderly people there who are just sort of, because they've been doing it for so long, are just very like habitually oriented towards open defecation. I remember there was this, so after I built them, I was like walking around one of the villages one day after the latrines were built, and I was just going by some of the houses to like check in on people and see how they were doing, and there was this family sitting in front of their house. They were maybe 2 houses down from the latrines. It was maybe no more than 50 meters tops away from their house. You could see it like eyeball distance from their house. And I was just talking with them, asking about, you know, if they're using it and how everything was going. And like the grandma from that house there, I was like talking to her, and I asked her if she used it, and she was like, no. And I asked her why, and the literal translation of what she said was, she said, it's so far I want to die. Even though it's like 50 meters from her house, and you could see it. Like I was looking at it, and she was like, no, it's too far, I'm going to die. I'm going to go out back instead. All right. Yeah.
How is the government protecting Cambodia? And you said hopefully your project will go through all
I
this.
can't hear you. Can you say that again?
How is the government? And quick question. You said hopefully this project will go to other villages.
Yeah.
So was there someone from the government with you, interacting with you in this project?
No, we didn't really receive any support from the government. I mean, we acted very independent like an NGO. I mean, we worked with a bunch of community partners like the village chiefs and a bunch of health workers in the area, but you know, we didn't receive any like funding or any really support from the government. I mean, they have their own initiatives, but they obviously are still having so many problems of their own. And what was that second part of your question?
If they were like interacting with you in the sense, oh, this is a good project, we want to take it to other villages.
There's like a, I meant that this project is continuing in the sense that there's a new like Peace Corps person who is working in the same area that I was, who's like, he's the one who's interested in continuing the project, so he is the one who will be continuing it. The government, no. And that, it's just kind of a hot mess. There's a bunch of like, there's so many NGOs working in Cambodia, it's really just kind of a chaotic mess. But, yeah.
Last one, I guess. So at Harris, we're always trying to figure out how to change the world at the macro level. And in this presentation, you really taught us how you change the world at the micro level.
Yeah.
So are there any lessons learned you can share with us about how to change the world from a micro to a macro perspective?
Yes. Speaking of a micro level, really what inspired this presentation, which I didn't actually have any time to tell, which, so during like, there was an MLK event during like Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Brian Stevenson, who's the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, who some of you came and saw, who was probably one of the best speeches I've ever seen in my life. But he came and gave a speech a few months ago, and one of the things that he said in his topic, he talked about this idea of proximity, meaning the fact that if you want to work for the benefit of any sort of social group or any sort of social purpose, you need proximity to the group that you're working with to really be able to understand the needs that they face and the issues that are happening in that community, which is really applicable to like a broad setting of development and also just politics in general. Like it's even applicable to like certain politicians in Washington that maybe are out of touch with things that are happening. But really the whole inspiration for this project was the idea of proximity, which I don't know how many of you have come from doing field work, but like my entire 2 years there was like field work and really, really like hands-on development. So that's just my like 2 cents, where I really encourage all of you, if you have a chance, like over the summer or even in your future careers, I think really being able to be like hands-on and just dive in to really issues at like the local level can be really eye-opening to the problems that people face, and will also really like benefit you for your career. So I don't know if I answered that, but so much more to say about all the other projects that I did there. So feel free, like if you want to like grab lunch or just like talk about it later.
All right, we have one more presentation.